We should be live. Just, oops. Oopsie poopsie. Oopsie poopsie. I forgot to change the... Oopsie poopsie. Forgot to change it so that it doesn't say debate. Today's not a debate day. How do I change it back? How do I change it back? I'm actually just gonna end the live really quick. End now. Go live. Alright, if you're watching on YouTube, welcome, welcome. I'm just getting started. Please bear with me. And I will be right with you to answer your questions. Just trying to get everything finished setting up. Because these things always, you know, there's no good way to automate this as far as I know. Alright, let's pop out the chat. Howdy, howdy. Welcome to everybody who's rolling in. Alright, we should be good to go, y'all. So here I am. And here you are. Look at the two of us. What are the odds that we're both in the same place? Who knows? Maybe it was serendipity. It's my favorite equation. Lately, at one point in time, it was absolutely the Gauss's Theorema Egregium, which is a relationship between a surface's intrinsic curvature and then the way that the curvature that it gets from bending. But lately, it's been the Einstein field equations. Is this an open call-in? This is not even a debate live. This is not a debate today. This is ask your physics questions. What's the best book to learn about field theory? Do you mean classical field theory? Because, what book did I use? Did I use Goldstein? I think I used Goldstein for classical field theory. Although it's been so long, I just don't even know at this point. But if you're looking for like a good book for quantum field theory, Weinberg's pretty good. Best E&M textbook author? Anybody who says Jackson hates you, but Jackson probably, unfortunately. Although actually Griffiths was really good for learning. Can I do a backflip? I cannot. Does quantization of space mean that we should be able to find circle circumference with absolute precision at all? Well, we don't know if space is quantized. Heard that electrons can't be used in circular accelerators. Why is that? They can be, but if they're going too fast because their mass is so low, they give off a lot of radiation in the form of Bremsstrahlung. Bremsstrahlung is inversely proportional to the mass. And so the bigger or the smaller the mass, the more they emit. And so they just lose energy very quickly. Is there a law to explain all the laws of the universe? Probably not. To what college did you go? I'm not telling you. How's the cat? She's currently sitting in her crate. She's very happy there. When will we be having a theory of everything? Who knows? Any advice for a classical mechanics class? Get good at calculus, right? Are observations of outer space factual reality or considered only theoretical concepts? No, they're real observations. We're observing real things. The energy from the quantum field can be harvested. No, it can't be harvested. Can you provide insight on what's missing for a quantum theory of gravity? We need a completely new framework. Standard quantum field theory just doesn't work to explain gravity. Is theory of everything the holy grail? I mean, is there anything beyond theory of everything? Well, yeah, so there's still a lot of physics to do, because even if you have a fundamental theory of everything, you still have to understand what that means for all of the matter in the universe, right? If string theory was right, that still wouldn't explain things like how to make a room temperature superconductor, for example. I heard something about a theory that says about time moving backwards in a mirror dimension. I made a video about that a while ago, but the reporting on it was really, really bad. Like, it was just one possible idea. Isn't it circular logic to use quantum-based single photon emitter as proof of quantum mechanics? No, the fact that we can make a quantum-based single photon emitter is good evidence, at least, of quantum mechanics. They call me, you mean we don't know how? No, it's not even in principle possible to extract energy from the quantum vacuum, because the vacuum is by definition the lowest energy source, the lowest energy level. Have you repented from yesterday's blasphemy? Of course. Have you read A History of Nearly Everything? I haven't. Would two planets on the brink of collapse, brink of collision, begin ripping apart before coming in contact with each other? It depends on how strong their gravity is, but it's possible, yeah. Robert, thank you for the $3 super chat. I appreciate you. Will we get to meet nondescript theist God? Only if your soul has gone through enough torture or something. What says that gravity has to work on a quantum level? Maybe it just doesn't tie in that way. Well, it's a good question. But the point is that there are things we don't understand because our theory of gravity shouldn't work down there. Like, imagine you have an electron that's in a superposition of being at two different places, right? What's the gravitational field? Somehow, the gravitational field has to, like, be in a superposition. And yet, we don't know how to talk about that. Not convinced at all it's a tautology? No, the fact that there are quanta of light means that they are quantized. That's kind of what it means. Do you know what time deconstruction zone goes live? No idea. Have you seen Chris Langan's Theory of Everything or read his book? No, but it's probably wrong. How do I get a 6? I'm not going to answer that question, Harry. Thoughts on Pastafarianism? We all go through a phase. Doesn't a photon travel all possible paths simultaneously? Depends on your preferred interpretation. Was the Big Bang repulsive gravity? We don't really know. What's the gravitational of a superposition electrons created? Yeah, right? Tell me about it. Can we have a system where the system knows about itself? I know it's impossible by today's means, Maxwell's demons. What if we have such system where the system knows everything even about itself? I don't think that that's even in principle possible, just because you end up with recursive knowledge, which seems like it's problematic. Somebody just sent me a DM on Discord. Or something. Sorry, let me get back to answering questions. Can you explain the physics behind folding a pizza? I actually have a video on that. In fact, that is intrinsically related to Gauss's Theorema egregium, which is one of the best equations. Essentially, the reason why folding a pizza works is because the pizza is actually flat, right? And so when you fold it, the total curvature has to be can't change when you fold it. And so if it bends this way, then the total curvature, by the way, is the product of the two curvatures in the two different directions. So if it bends one way, it has to stay flat in the other direction so that the product of the two stays 0. You know, Chris Lagan is a verified 200 in, right? I don't care. IQ is not particularly meaningful when it comes to making physics discoveries. Famously, Richard Feynman didn't have a particularly high IQ, and he's one of the most brilliant physicists to have ever lived, actually. What's the thoughts on simulation theory? I'm not particularly convinced by it. How do we remove energetic blocks to manifest easier? You don't. It's not real. If space is infinite, how can it have a start or beginning point? It just means that if it did have a start, it was infinite when it started, infinite in size. Can the Earth's core be cooling enough that it can also be causing global warming? No, I don't think so. Geometry of a singularity? There really isn't a geometry of a singularity. Singularities are by definition places where there is no geometry. How do we remove? Okay, I already answered that. Could laws of physics be different in each galaxy? Unlikely, because we can see stars in other galaxies and they behave like stars here. Are you familiar with the Alcubierre metric? Very familiar. Yeah, super familiar. It's I'm also familiar with like the Notero or the Navarro metric, which is a little bit more sophisticated version of that. But yeah, super familiar. Do derivatives in polar coordinates change because of the affine connection? The affine connection is flat, but connections themselves don't transform as tensors, and so well, okay, sorry, they do transform as tensors, but their coordinate representations obviously do transform because they transform as tensors. And so you're stuck with this notion that the actual coordinate description of your derivative in polar coordinates looks messy. What is the physics behind a lightsaber, or is it even possible? As far as we know, this is not a thing that you can really make, not without some sort of end cap. How does the fridge know the door is open? Probably with a magnetic sensor. What are the physics behind the black hole and interstellar? It's basically all speculation inside, and then just normal gravitational physics outside. Can you talk about artificial gravity? What about it? It's not really a thing. Will physics ever bring about fully automated gay space, luxury gay space communism? I hope so, but probably not. Probably not physics. That'd probably be like, well, maybe it's engineering. In what way Schrodinger's atomic model beats Bohr's model, and what does the Schrodinger equation mean mathematically? Schrodinger's atomic model just makes better predictions, right? And it just makes better predictions. You can talk about like the fine structure, the hyperfine structure, and things like that. The Schrodinger equation, all it means is that the rate at which the wave function changes is in direct proportion to the energy of the wave functions of the wave function. How do you make sense of the level of knowledge you've acquired compared to the lack of knowledge a certain president has, and somehow he has all the power? Yeah, great question. Really good question. I'm in physics 2 at uni, and I'm realizing just how much we don't know. We can mostly just extrapolate. Well, science is in the business of doing inference, right? If dark energy gets weak enough, could the universe collapse in on itself? Possibly, yeah. Will the magnetic poles of Earth really flip one day? Yeah. What's your best equation to disprove? You can't use equations to disprove the shape of the Earth because they don't believe in math. What's not real? Block chakras? You good? Yeah, block chakras are, that's like, there's no scientific basis for those. Brother, how do I become like you when my physics and math is weak? I want to get an analytical brain. Get better. Get good, I guess. Just assume that Blitz was correct about the magnetic sensor. I mean, probably. It's probably a magnetic sensor, right? Or just like a switch or something? I don't know. Since science meta changes decade to decade, how can we have faith in it? You don't have faith in science. That's the whole business of science. You believe what the best evidence implies, and when the evidence changes, your beliefs should change. I thought the Schrodinger equation meant that the bigger he... No. What's the definition of velocity? It's speed plus direction. Implication of the double slit experiment? It just means that our universe seems to be, at least one of the implications is that our universe is quantum, and that stuff is made of waves. Where do thoughts come from? They come from our brain. What new piece of physics would you like taught in high school? I actually don't know what's taught in physics in high school at the moment, so I can't really say. Do you believe the collision of brains created the conditions to put the Big Bang in place to happen? No, not really. Is going to do a master's or PhD in physics realistic, or do most people go straight to working? I mean, lots of people do PhDs and masters, but not everybody. Do you believe in manifestation vibrations? No, of course not. I get the math, but I don't get how YC is invariant for all observers is drawing my brain. Well, look, it was either going to be invariant for all observers or it's not. It happens to be that it is. Like, this is, I mean, if you're asking why it's that way, it's empirically true. Do degrees matter? I mean, to an extent, depends on your field, yeah. On what exactly does general relativity disagree with quantum mechanics? Nowhere. The trouble is we know that general relativity is going to have problems if you wanted to describe the gravitational effects of, say, an electron in a superposition. Because where would the gravitational field be centered on? Can you talk about light freezing? It didn't freeze. They didn't freeze light. It's not what happened. Go watch my video on it. It has 600 or 300,000 views or something. Will humans ever leave our solar system? Maybe. What's your definition of energy? Energy is a quantity that's conserved in a Lagrangian that has a time translation symmetry. What do you think about recursion? It's fine. What's the best theory on what dark matter is? Is it just the guts of a neutron star, strange matter? No, it's certainly not anything that's in a neutron star, no. There's this thing saying that scientists have evidence that we live in a black hole and wonder if, no, not really. So us living in a black hole is consistent with recent data that was just found, but there are a whole bunch of other things that are consistent with that data as well. If you were to predict 5 random numbers between 1 and 35 every day, how long would it take you to win? To win what? What interpretation of quantum mechanics do you think most likely to be correct? I lean towards many worlds. If I too want to become a physicist, what degree should I have? You should get a PhD. You took 9C with me. Well, that's a delight. Have they measured the speed of wave collapse like an entanglement? As far as we can tell, it's instantaneous. Do mathematical physicists have to take real and or complex analysis? I did. But I also majored in mathematics as an undergrad. So, and then, you know, there's math methods for physicists, which has complex analysis in it. How do I convince my friend that we've left the atmosphere? Show them video. Do negative ions weigh more than positive ions? What is their subatomic weight difference? I guess negative ions would, because they have more matter, I guess, yeah. Do you believe that? Okay, I already answered that. Sorry, I'm way behind. I have to jump down to the bottom. My bad. Why is there no start to a cycle, or how? I mean, there could be a start to a cycle, but there could equally well not be a start to a cycle. Did you see Veritasium's new video? No, I don't really watch this stuff very much anymore. What is the black hole information paradox? I made a video about this quite recently. Go watch it. Is the number of electrons on Earth effectively finite? It is literally finite, right? So your BS in math and PhD in physics? No, I have a BS in mathematics and a BS in physics. I did both. Better learn curvature visually or through formally via commutation of covariant derivatives? Honestly, I would do the calculations first, and then once you have a knack for what those calculations do, then go try to interpret them visually. Because it's going to be really hard to visualize generally. Are you good at chemistry? No, not at all. I've never taken it. What if there is a non-physical force? Then it's not physics. Is partial of any vector field with respect to any coordinate is a unit vector in that direction? If yes, what are the limit? I don't understand what that question means. How big is the universe if not infinite? It could be infinite or it could be finite. But if it is finite, estimates are that it's at least 300 times bigger than the observable universe. Can you explain all physical symmetries? Most of them are internal, meaning that they act on internal spaces, which are not like spatial spaces. These are things like the SU3 cross SU2 cross U1 symmetry, the standard model, diffeomorphism invariance of general relativity. Diffeomorphism invariance is basically a generalized version of moving things around and changing coordinates. Is the number of... Oh, I already answered that. Are there virtual particles? They're a useful mathematical trick, but as far as we can tell, they're not real things. Hence the name. Why don't we magnetize cars to stop them hitting each other? Because then sometimes they would attract each other. What is the Higgs boson and why is it dubbed the God particle? Well, it was dubbed the God particle because a publisher made a bad decision when titling a pop science book. It was originally going to be there was a book that was written in the 90s by Leon Letterman that was originally going to be called The Goddamn Particle. But the publisher didn't like having a swear word, so they renamed it to the God particle. The Higgs boson, though, is its real name, and it's essentially responsible for why fundamental particles have mass. What do you think about retrocausality? I don't think it's a thing. Are we all living in a simulation? I don't think so. Motion isn't physical, it's physics. I mean, physics describes physical things. How can you make money as a physicist? As a researcher? That's what most physicists do. They work as researchers. You need to listen to Bashar, Joe Dispenza, and Neville Goddard. That's hilarious. Those blowhards? Why would I listen to Bashar and Joe Dispenza? Are my cells 13 billion years old? No, of course not. Could you explain what quantum tunneling is? I literally made a video about, or released a video about it today. Can you go into engineering like a master's with a physics BS? Yeah, sure. If the number of electrons is finite on Earth, then we have a limit on how much digital memory. Yeah. Are you religious? No, not at all. Which physicist would you fight in their prime? Hooke. I don't remember his name, his first name. Robert Hooke, I want to say. And the reason is because he was famously very short. And so I think that even if he was in his prime, I could just like outrange him because I'd be much taller. Does the universe have an edge? Almost certainly not. What do you think of gauge symmetry? I think it's nice. I like gauge symmetry generally. I like diffeomorphism invariance more, but you know. Does curved spacetime in general relativity mean that a geodesic passing through the center of a mass is slightly longer than a geodesic parallel to it some distance away? It can be, depending on what the spacetime curvature is doing. In fact, look up the Shapiro time delay, and that will be exactly what you're referring to. The curvature is absolutely both in space and time. I actually have a video on the Shapiro time delay. I don't know if it's on YouTube yet. It's definitely on TikTok, but look it up. Do you believe other life exists? Yeah, probably. Do you think universal constants are changing over time by very small amounts? I don't know. I mean, certainly we haven't detected that. Could a cooling planet exist without plate tectonics? A cooling planet? I suppose, yeah. Can black holes get infinitely big? No, because there's not an infinite amount of matter in the light cone or in the future light cone of any particular thing. I guess unless the universe recollapses. But no, generally not. There's just not enough. No, he's not paying attention to YouTube chat. Absolutely am. You just guys aren't asking questions as fast. What would happen if the universe were to stop making an edge? It doesn't have an edge. Why do so many of us find physics challenging? Is it bad teachers and an inability for most of us? It's not the physics, it's the math. Because to understand physics properly, really, like if you really want to understand physics, you're not going to get it from a pop science book, and you're not going to get it from a teacher who refuses to go into the mathematics. Physics, like the language that you do physics is mathematics. You have to be fluent if you want to understand physics well. If in high school, that means being fluent in algebra. In college, that means being fluent in calculus, right? Did you hear Forrest wants you back in line? I did hear that. That's delightful. Which theory in general is your favorite? I'm a relativist at my heart. I'm a relativity kind of guy. How many papers do you read a year? It depends. If they're physics papers tend to be shorter than math papers and they take less time. Math papers tend to take a while, but like I think I'm averaging 2 to 3 a year for the last 5 years or so. Okay, physicist, why am I physically unable to be loved? You should look in the mirror. Will we ever find a grand unified theory, and is it possible in our lifetime? Hard to say. Grand unified theory means a very specific thing, and I almost suspect that it's actually not right. That there will be no such thing. Do you think we'll have figured out dark matter and energy by the end of the century? How could I ever possibly predict that? Why does science consider that light travels when distant travel is distance over time and light is not in time? Light absolutely moves through time. Have you learned any C-star algebras for QFT? Not really. I kind of avoided as much algebra as I could because I hate algebra. Like, if anything, I'm more of an analysis guy. Has the universe been infinite since the Big Bang, or did it become infinite? So if it is infinite, it's been infinite the whole time. If the universe is not curved, expanding, and therefore presumably finite, why no edge? The universe is curved. It absolutely is curved. But expanding doesn't mean that it's finite either. Why mass cannot achieve light speed? It would take an infinite amount of energy to get there. Can you please do more flat Earth troll streams? Nope, it's once a year. Could there be something generating energy in the universe we don't know about yet? So its steady state is it just appears expanding. Well, yeah, dark energy is doing that, but that's causing expansion. I thought clocks stopped moving at sea. Well, clocks don't exist at sea. There is a form of time that passes at sea. It's called affine time. But the important point is that the time coordinate of a photon changes. It occurs at different moments of time. You can watch it travel through time. You can watch it on your watch. It will move. It just doesn't have its own perspective, if you will. Are you a theoretical or an experimental physicist? I'm a mathematical physicist. So I'm more theoretical than a theoretical physicist. I actually do proofs and stuff. Thoughts on multiverse collisions causing big bangs? I don't believe in the multiverse. I don't really see a whole lot of evidence for it. So if the universe is curved, what does that mean for a multiverse? It doesn't really imply anything about it. Do you think we will reach the end of physics we are able to understand? I suspect not. Do you think entropy could be reversed in the future? Not technologically, but it's something that does happen occasionally. If light is the fastest speed, how can there be more past the CMB? More what? How is to learn something that you know is wrong? I don't know what you're talking about. Is time a constant? Time is not a number. A constant isn't like a number, like pi. What is the measurement problem in physics? The measurement problem is how do we make sense of, from a quantum mechanical point of view, what the act of measuring does to a system, like a quantum system. Because it seems like, depending on your preferred interpretation, measurement might collapse the wave function, or it might cause, decoherence, or it might cause some Bayesian update. Like we just don't really have a good understanding of what measurement actually does to a quantum wave function. How does light move through time? Oh, I already answered that. What do you think about the Penrose-Hameroff model? I'm not convinced. What did you major in undergrad? I did a double major, both in mathematics and physics. Do you think we're inside a black hole? I don't. Why do I get electric shock every time I touch metal? Because you're positive. Have you seen any neat category theory in your work? I haven't, actually. but that's because I refuse to learn it. Do you think we're inside a black hole? I don't. Why wouldn't you study from them how they teach structure of how we manifest it? I wouldn't study from them because I don't know what they're talking about. Could you please elaborate on particle entanglement and how it works without violating the speed of light? So, look, nothing is actually transferred. So when we say that two particles are entangled, what that means is that they're not two separate things. They are one thing that happens to have multiple different locations. So when you affect one of those parts, you're affecting the whole thing. That's all. How confident are you that the tired light thing is nonsense? 95%. Trying to do a math PhD, do you think it's still worth it in this political climate? Who knows, brother or sister? I mean, do it if you love it. It won't hurt you. Thoughts on super oscillations, anomalous weak values? I don't know a lot about them. I've heard about them, but I don't know a lot. Not enough to comment anyway. Is it true when something with matter goes as fast as the speed of light, electromagnetic background radiation drags on and destroys it? If you get close to the speed of light, yes, the electromagnetic cosmic microwave background radiation will drag on you, yes. Thoughts on Big Crunch? It's possible. No, stop it now. You're playing some everything in the universe. Let's clear this up. Everything in the universe source comes from a spherical center point that processes information. Oh, that's not true. Is it true when something with matter goes as fast as light? Okay, I already answered that. Why is turbulence called the last answered question in classical physics? Because dealing with fluid dynamics is very, very, very complicated. Another live feed claiming rockets can't work in space. Go get them. Nope, I'm doing this today. Can you explain time dilation in the simplest way possible? Yeah, so so you can only move at a certain speed, the speed of light, through space-time. When you're standing still, you're moving through space-time you're moving through time at the speed of light, and through space, not at all. But the faster you move through space, the less you can move through time. Does gatekeeping by physics professors keep the field stagnated by discouraging future students? I don't know. I couldn't comment on that because I didn't feel gatekept, but I'm sure it does happen. Can physical force move an electron from one orbital energy state to another orbital energy state? Yeah, just hit it with a photon. Or do you mean like actually like touching it? In principle, touching it could too, yeah. What is gravity? Gravity is an observed phenomenon wherein mass and other phenomena attract each other. Can you tell me how the radius of a capillary tube can be measured without expensive equipment? I have no idea. Why does nothing exist at absolute zero? Because to get to absolute zero would take an infinite amount of time. This is actually one of the ways that you can phrase the third law of thermodynamics. Can you explain the Andromeda paradox? I made a video about it and posted it on YouTube and on TikTok, so go watch that instead. Are you a college or school professor? Currently, I'm a postdoc, so that means I'm doing research and I'm not teaching. But hopefully in the near future, I will be a university professor. Why so few physicists study fluid dynamics? Because it's hard, yo. And it's like a hard problem that you need mathematicians for. It's not a physics problem anymore. Which math is the most useful for physics? Probably depends on what physics, but often it's going to be complex analysis. Is exotic matter with negative mass theoretical only, or could it actually really exist in reality? We have never detected it and have no reason to believe that it's real. Is the universe infinite? It very well could be. Why can't elephants jump? Because their knees don't work. I don't know. Does sound wave have friction and lose energy while traveling? Yes, yes they do. Now you know why Trump dismantled the Department of Education, because even with it, we still have people like you. Like me? Oh, that's embarrassing for you. I'm a student. I'm just watching instead of asking anything in my mind because it would be disrespectful. There are no stupid questions. Have you seen atoms in real life? Yeah, we're looking at them right now. What weighs more, a pound of steel or a pound of feathers? They weigh the same. What mathematics is there in condensed matter theory? There's going to be a lot of obviously linear algebra, a lot of complex analysis, a lot of ODEs and PDEs. Probably some algebra too. Not algebra 2, but algebra also. How often is physics progression stunted due to professors clinging to their own theories? I don't know. I don't actually know if that's really a common thing. Do you believe string theory will link the quantum world with gravity? I kind of suspect not. Did you struggle with calculus or anything like that in college? No. What's the closest thing we have to a perfect inertial reference frame? The Earth. Not the surface of the Earth, but the Earth itself. It is an inertial reference frame. How does matter exist if it just came from energy? Also, what even is energy? That's a mistake. Matter didn't come from energy. Energy is not a thing that exists. Matter and fields, these are things that exist. Those are things that have energy. Can you suggest me best careers related to biology and what? I wouldn't know anything about that. Can touch on use of Calabi-Yau manifolds. The only use they have in physics is string theory. In mathematics, they're just really elegant geometrical objects. How frustrated do you get with flat earthers? Not very. They're doing their best sometimes. Do you believe the universe exists inside a black hole? No. Does each planet have its own laws of physics? No. Is the current theory on dark matter that it's one particle or a group of particles? There is no consensus. You're an actual physicist? Yeah. Yeah, of course. It says it on my page. How does the EBR kill you today when moving at the speed of light when it was emitted 13 billion years ago? Well, so it's everywhere. It was emitted 13 billion years. By the way, it's the CMB, not EBR. But it was emitted 13 billion years ago, but it's still moving. And the faster you go, the bluer it gets until it will become gamma radiation. It'll vaporize you. What's your theory on gravity? That it's well approximated by general relativity. Do we actually know how an atom looks like, or do we kind of assume? We have literally pictures of them. Are Maruhana particles real? Do you mean Majorana particles? Because, we don't know. Oh, I have a Chladni plate. What are some fun experiments or frequencies you suggest I try? I don't know what kind of experiments you can run, but it's just a fun toy to play with. Carl Sagan or Neil deGrasse Tyson? Easily Carl Sagan. Easily. He's the GOAT. Well, okay. Aaron Fest was the GOAT, but then he died. What are you doing research on? So today I spent all day doing two things. I was working on a project where I was trying to find the asymptotic behavior of the stress energy tensor around an asymptotically Curtis-Sitter black hole. And in the second half of today, really more like the last third of the day, I spent time trying to improve a proof for Bach-flat manifolds that are not Poincare-Einstein. What's one of your favorite songs? Right now I'm on a Ghost kick. I really like Cerise, but also Beast in Black is quite good, and so their song, basically any of their songs are really good. Did the universe being inside a black hole have any scientific basis, or was it just catchy news? It was mildly scientific, but it was just catchy news. Are you a quaternion enjoyer? I am not. Does that mean that the CBR is a wall created 13 billion years? It's not a wall. No, it's just the waves are everywhere. So they're always bumping into you. It's just when you go faster, they get more energy. Yatin Sharma, thank you for the 20 in some units of money, which I don't know, but thank you. I appreciate that. What did the DESI results show? I have a video on it. It showed that they were more confident that that dark energy is decreasing. Do you think physics is finely tuned, or is physics too perfect to be random? I don't know what that question means. I'm not convinced by the fine-tuning argument, though. What's a physicist? A person who does physics as a profession. Are you streaming to YouTube too? Yes, I am. What did you study in college? I got a bachelor's in mathematics and a bachelor's in science. Or sorry, a bachelor's in mathematics and a bachelor's in physics. Do gravity waves imply the existence of gravity particles? Maybe. Is centrifugal force real, or is it really centripetal acceleration? Centrifugal force is the inertial force that you feel from being in a rotating reference frame. Thoughts on Microsoft's Majorana 1 chip particle? It was fake. It was like it's been confirmed fake at this point. At least as far as I know. So when you work, what does it look like? Chalkboards full of math. So most of the time I use a notebook like this, and then I just fill it with calculations. I don't know if you can see. I don't have a chalkboard, and I don't have a blackboard at home, and I work from home most days. And then once I'm done with my calculations, I either transfer them to a computer because, you know, sometimes I have to do computer calculations, or I write them up. How plausible is it to self-teach physics with zero formal education? Pretty implausible, unfortunately. Do you think that hyperbolic scientific reporting is eroding public trust in the physics community? Yes, absolutely. That's why I try to be honest with all of the breaking news that I talk about. If you were a high school math teacher, how would you get more kids interested in math? I have no idea. I don't know anything about the pedagogy. How do you get funding for research? Well, you write a grant application, and hopefully it gets accepted. What do you think about the Andromeda paradox? I made a video about it like 5-6 days ago, so go check that out. Could you explain the block universe concept? Yeah, the analogy here is imagine that the whole of space-time is like a loaf of bread. Each moment of time is like a slice of bread. The whole loaf exists. It's all equally real. It's just we are passing through the slices. What's the most digit of pies that we could realistically ever need for a practical task? Like 30? What do you think about Sabina Hossenfelder? I don't really like her. I think that she's gone off the deep end. How can we reconcile quantum mechanics and general relativity? Nobody knows. If gravity can bend space-time, could a sufficiently massive object create a literal time loop? No. But sort of, with a few exceptions, and those exceptions are well known. For example, the Tipler cylinder, also known as, and the Gödel universe, both are examples of types of mass distributions that can create time loops, but those require like infinite energy. Can you explain the difference between string theory and M theory? M theory is like string theory on steroids. Can you explain the page curve within black holes? Yeah, so my understanding is that, oh god, it's been so long. The page curve is when is it when the entropy starts to decrease? Hold on, let me just refresh my memory because, or you could just Google it. Hockey. Yeah, okay, that's right. Yeah, so it relates the entropy of the Hawking radiation to the time that it's been radiating. And so the only statement that I can really comment on is that it's just all it is it's a useful phenomenon to recognize if you're trying to study the black hole information paradox. Can you detect single photons without a SPAD? In principle, the human eye can detect single photons, just not very well. Do we actually touch stuff, or is there a big gap between the empty space of an atom? Well, things are not solid at the quantum level, so like touching is not really a well-defined notion. How would you explain parallel transport to a 6-year-old? I would just tell them to imagine that they're carrying an arrow and just to walk around. That's parallel transport. Walk around making sure that, you know, they never change the arrow's direction. Something like that. How far away and how fast do I need to go to make sure my okay, that's not a question. Are we living in a simulation? Probably not. What scares you most about space physics? Nothing. It's great. It's all great. Do you think consciousness is physical? I kind of lean that way. Your opinion on one electron theory. It's not real. We have quantum field theory to explain why electrons are all the same now. What's the difference between capacitor and battery, although its definition is the same? Right. A battery stores its energy in chemical potential energy. An electric or a capacitor stores its energy in a stored electric field. And so they have different characteristics. Capacitors can charge much faster because the electric field can change much more quickly than the chemistry can happen. But they also can store less energy because electric field densities aren't very high. Is it hard to get a physics degree? I want to pick it as my major. I mean, it's not easy, but it was fun. Do you think physics or philosophy is more useful? Obviously physics. Like, obviously. What got you into physics? Black holes. It was just black holes. Black holes all the way down. They're so cool. What was your educational route to a mathematical physics PhD? Well, I got a bachelor's in mathematics, a bachelor's in physics, then I got a master's in physics, and then I did my PhD. And my PhD advisor is a former physicist turned mathematician, so he made me into that too. But I still do physics, so that's why I have the label I have. Do you have a background in computer science? No, not at all. I know how to code. I've been coding since I was a kid, but like it's no formal training. Oh, what is the linear weak heart potential? Oh, I was thinking of the Leonard Jones. Linear weaker potential, isn't that? That's a thing in the Jackson book. I'm not gonna go over that because Jackson destroyed me. If I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, I knew it. I knew it. This evil shit. Make me relive my Jackson days. What's your profession? I'm a physicist and a mathematician, and I work at a university doing those two things. What is a child-friendly experiment that I can show examples of physics? Get a bike wheel, spin it up real fast, and then sit in a spinning chair. So it's spinning really, really fast. You're sitting in a spinning chair. Then flip it the other direction and watch as you start suddenly spinning. That's a really cool one, and it's conservation of angular momentum. Are gravitational waves from a gravity particle? Maybe. Can we use three-dimensional frequency tables in order to display more complex data sets? Maybe. Do windmills slow down the wind by taking some of its energy? Yes, they do. How long did your schooling take? So I started at 18 and I finished my PhD when I was 29. So, yeah, I think I was 20. I was about to turn 29 anyway. Actually, it's been almost exactly 3 years since I finished my PhD. Yeah. Would you ever become an astronaut? It'd be kind of neat. Are you doing any research now? Well, not literally this moment, but yeah, that's my day job. How much differential geometry do you use on a daily basis? Let me just show you a page. This is all differential geometry. So, like, differential geometry is what I do. Are you taking calls or should I bail on the tiny URL? I'm not taking calls. No, not today. I only do that sometimes, but today I'm not feeling it. Do you have any hobbies? Yeah, I play Marvel Rivals, and I do this a lot. Is your view on determinism falsifiable? I suppose, yeah. Show the GZW collapse is truly stochastic, and there you have falsified it. What are you actively researching? I have so many projects. I have a project on asymptotically Kerr de Sitter spacetimes. I have a project on Bach-Platt spacetimes. I have a few projects on conformally embedded submanifolds. I have a project that is a secret. Does chocolate milk come from brown cows? Yes, it does, actually. Are working hours comfortable? Yeah, generally. You generally set your own hours. Does Blitz read new viewers as priority? I don't know what that means. I read super chats as priority, though. Do you think cosmic strings exist, and why haven't we seen any signs of them yet? They might be, if they do exist, they're very rare. Can you talk about Penrose and twister theory? Look, I went to a conference about twisters last fall in hopes that I would learn what twisters are, and I came away realizing that basically nobody knows what twisters are except Penrose. And Penrose was there, by the way. I got a selfie with him. And he clearly knows what twisters are, but I still have no idea what they are. Best way to learn about mathematics, what resources did you use? I have always been ahead of the curve in mathematics, so it wasn't something that I like had to catch up on or like keep on par with. So I just took the classes that I took, and it like starting from a young age, I guess. But I'm even GR is not really sufficient. If you wanted inertia or charged particles to be a field effect of a nonlinear medium, you have to go beyond GR. How do you make your money mostly? I have a job at a university. I get paid to do research. Isn't quantum tunneling FTL communication? No, it's not. No communication is transferred. What would happen if it was possible to generate negative mass? Well, there's actually an interesting paper on this, but essentially what would happen is that you would end up causing a runaway chain reaction of it going on forever. If I continue to gamble everything, I'll win it all at the end, correct? You'll run out of money probably before you do that. How would you recommend studying physics outside of school? Pick up a textbook. How do optical tweezers work? I have a video on that. It's actually really neat. But essentially what they do is, oh no, I was thinking of laser cooling. I'm sorry. I actually don't know about optical tweezers. Maybe I'll make a video about it because then I'll learn about it. Not asking to cause a stir. What's your take on Wolfram physics? Nobody takes it seriously. He's just a very smart crank. He's very, very smart. Somebody once said, I don't remember who. Somebody once said that Stephen Wolfram is almost certainly, or what is it? I may not be as smart as Stephen Wolfram, but I am smart enough to know that he's wildly wrong. What color do you play in Magic the Gathering? What color do I play? I play a lot, but mostly I try to play things that have green in it. I'm like a Simic player at heart, but I like lean heavy in, well, no, I guess I lean heavy into the blue as well. So green and blue. Pick one Marvel, DC, Marvel. Can you explain what strange matter is? It's hypothetical, but it's matter that it's like stable matter particles that are composed of strange quarks, or at least partially composed of strange quarks. Do you agree with people claiming Stephen Hawking was overrated? No, he wasn't overrated. He also wasn't underrated. He was really brilliant. He was genuinely, truly brilliant. Are there any chances to walk through a wall? Not really, no. Are working hours comfortable? Yeah, I set my own hours. Are wimps real? They've never detected them. Penrose thinks that gravity may have something to do with consciousness. What do you think? Yeah, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. Could we just be protons that gained matter instantaneously? Probably not. Since you like black holes, what are white holes? Probably a non-existent. White holes would be the brightest things in the universe, and they would have to be made, they would have to have negative energy, negative mass, and we don't see bright things in the universe that look like white holes, and we don't think that negative mass is possible. Thank you for the $2, by the way, Skullgetter. I appreciate that. By the way, if you do want your question to be prioritized, I will answer super chats. Those will always come first. Hey, what's your qualification? I have a PhD in physics. My friend told me the universe was confirmed by science. Your friend lied to you. Does double split confirm simulation? No. What made you become a physicist? Black holes, because they're cool. There's only one. Okay. What is your opinion on the Fermi paradox? I think the universe is just big. I think that US general that tried to walk through a wall, supposedly. How do you get from electrodynamics to special relativity? You kind of infer it. So what you find is that if you assume that the constants, the permittivity of free space and the permeability of free space don't change regardless of how fast you're moving, then you find that the speed of light is the same in all reference frames. And that's kind of shocking. Can I approximate pi as 3? Yeah, sure. What is the best major to study if you had to pick 3 in your opinion? Well, my preferred ones are math, physics, and probably... philosophy? I don't know. Do you believe God exists? No. Can atom interferometers detect gravity waves? Detect gravity waves? No, but they can detect gravity, actually. Physics hot take. What's your physics hot take? I don't think I really have one. Maybe that the universe won't last, or that the universe has always existed. Maybe that's a hot take. Is there a monopole magnet and why? There is not. Is it worth it to put a lot of time to be a physicist? If you like it, yeah. How would you create more efficient nuclear power production? I don't know. I'm not an engineer. Has gravity been proven? Yeah, like 300 years ago. Thoughts on quantum physics? It's real. Do you believe different dimensions exist? No. Are you a musician by chance? I was at one point. I was never very good, but yeah, I played guitar for a long time. I haven't really played guitar since... I mean, I barely played it in grad school. But yeah, and I ended up selling my guitars before I moved to Europe. How do I get better at math? Practice, unfortunately. Mathematics is not a spectator sport. How can anything exist without a creator? Why do you assume that everything needs a creator? What's your opinion on anti-gravity? Probably doesn't exist. Are most physicists skeptical about religion? Yeah, I think so. When are we going to see you on the line again? When Forrest wants me to come on. Can you explain why a bunch of particles can form a consciousness? No, nobody can. At least not yet. Skullgetter with the $2. What are your thoughts on Interstellar? I liked the movie, but its physics stopped being accurate in the last 15 or 20 minutes or so. Do you also do work in topology? Very little. I don't actually... No, okay, let me rephrase. I don't actually do work in topology, but I do use topology every time and again. Crazy how all good physicists worth their salt believe in God. Roger Penrose, Stephen Hawking, both very prominent atheists. Lawrence Krauss, prominent atheist. I think even Andy Albrecht is a prominent atheist. No, actually, the vast majority of physicists who are in the National Academy of Science are atheists. Is studying quantum gravity fun? It's very confusing and hard. But yeah, it is fun. All you do is sit on TikTok live and claim you're some... Wait, you know it's like 8:45 for me, right? Like at night. So like, yeah, this is what I do. I do this every night. Almost every night. Skull Getter with the $2. Thank you again. I appreciate you. What do you think of Brian Greene? Great science communicator. I notice these questions are quickly shifting from physics questions to religious and philosophical discussions. People always ask that kind of stuff, yeah. If you keep splitting a magnet in half, at what point does it lose its magnetism? Like 100 at? Well, the thing is atoms are magnetic. So in principle, once you get down to one atom, right? Can you explain why a neutron is slightly more massive than a proton? Because the composite quarks have slightly different masses, and the binding energy is slightly different, I guess. It must be. No universe is infinitely improbable. Which scientific field has the most potential to pursue a career in? I don't know. I'm only a physicist. Can you explain the Higgs field? Yeah, I mean, the analogy that everybody uses, and I think it's a decent one, is like universal molasses. And as you're traveling through it, you get slowed down, and that makes you gain mass. Do you have your own YouTube channel? I'm streaming on YouTube right now. We're doing this from YouTube and TikTok. How the magnetic field is connected to the quantum theory. You have to be more specific than that. Like, we talk about quantum electrodynamics. That's the quantum theory that involves electricity and magnetism. Why do your questions keep getting highlighted? Who's highlighting those? Are you highlighting those? Because if you're highlighting those, stop abusing your power. Why does mass create gravity? It just seems to be the thing that gravity is. Please, your opinion on one electron theory? It's been, like, defunct since the 70s. Like, it's not a real thing. We have quantum field theory to explain it. Is the universe infinite? Maybe. Can you explain why the Big Bang took place? Nobody really knows. Why is water wet? Because that's what it means to be wet. To be made of water or something. That's what it means to have water on you. Vicarious, thank you for the sunglasses. I appreciate you. Most interesting topic is physics. In physics is chemistry. Lies. Can you or anyone explain what the term energy really means? Yeah, energy is a quantity. It's a number, right? It's not a physical thing. It's a number that describes a system. So you can think of like it's like a numerical property of a system, and that property is defined as the thing that doesn't change when the system only has time, translation, and variance. So imagine just watching imagine that your system's, like the technical term is that the Lagrangian of the system, if the Lagrangian of the system doesn't change if you move forward in time or backwards in time, then it has something called energy conservation. That's how we define energy. Skull Getter with the $2, do you like anime? If so, which ones? I'm not like a huge weeb, but I do like some animes. Some animes are excellent. Like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is like an excellent show. I also am like, you know, Yu Yu Hakusho, like I watched as a kid, and you know, Yu-Gi-Oh I watched as a kid, and those both count as animes, right? And Rurouni Kenshin is also excellent. I mean, I watch, like, I'm not like huge into anime, but like, you know, I can appreciate some good stuff. Is the universe independent or is there a multiverse? We don't know. Why is quantum gravity an unsolved problem? Because nobody solved it yet. Energy is not a number. It can be treated as a quantity, but it's not properly its nature. Well, that's a cool assertion, but when we do physics, we talk about energy is a number. Was Einstein close to finishing his theory of everything? No. Do you think that the universe will reach a point where it begins to shrink and go back to its original state? Maybe. It's possible anyway. My friend told me that in a black hole, space and time get swapped. I cannot wrap my head around this. Any idea what he's saying? Yeah, it's sort of right, actually, which is very, very strange. So the point is that at least in a non-rotating black hole, actually in all black holes, what it means for to pass the event horizon of a black hole is that the forward direction in time starts being a forward direction in space, meaning that as you move through time forward, you inevitably end up deeper into the black hole. And similarly, back and forth in space is actually back and forth in time, in the external viewer's time, which is also very weird. They do literally swap. Will you do more similar lives like yesterday? Nope. That's a once a year thing. Oh, it's a sneeze. Why don't magnetic forces do work? They can. What happens when you bring two magnets close to each other? The magnetic fields interact and the magnets get drawn towards each other. They do work. They speed up the magnets. How is Trump our president right now? Yeah, tell me about it. Why can't we do the derivation of QED to Maxwell's equations to special theory of relativity to GR? Special relativity doesn't imply GR. You can't go from special relativity to GR without some extra assumptions built in that will ruin stuff. Why do people sneeze if they look towards light? That's a good question. It's actually called the autochromosomal. It's called the photic sneeze reflex. Fourth physicists have seen with long hair is it a requirement? Yeah, basically, it's part of the job description or something. What's the most interesting thing you've discovered in your studies? That the cosmological constant might not be constant. In fact, I didn't exactly predict this, but I produced a quantum gravity model that is consistent with the DESI results. This was last year. I'm actually quite proud of that paper. How can a meson consist of two quarks while maintaining color neutrality? Well, you have color and anticolor. So as long as they're the opposite colors, then you're good. Work changes one kind of energy into another. Magnetic Lorentz forces acting on a charge does not do work in the sense that the energy stays in the same form. Well, yeah. So the Lorentz force acting on a charge doesn't do work. Absolutely. However, the the dipole-dipole attraction or the dipole-dipole repulsion can absolutely do work. Have you heard of Dragon Ball? Of course I've heard of Dragon Ball. I didn't watch it a lot though. Thanks again for the $2, Skullgetter. I appreciate you. By the way, if you guys want to support me, whether you're watching on YouTube or on TikTok, you can support me on Cash App. I have a link tree down in my description in my bio. And there's also a Buy Me a Coffee if the link to the Cash App isn't working, because it doesn't always work. Law of attraction and gratitude. Well, that's not a real thing. That's just kind of vibes. Physicists who believe in God, Albert Einstein, Isaac Newton the Great, Blaise Pascal, Galileo. Funny. You should try mentioning modern physicists, maybe because everybody believed in God back in the day. Also, Einstein didn't really believe in God. Why do quarks have colors? What does that mean? So there are 8 colors. Well, okay, no, there's 8 types of gluons. Sorry, there are 3 colors. And it's just a way of describing the charge of a quark. So in electromagnetism, you have positive and negative charges. And in the strong nuclear force, quantum chromodynamics, you have 3 charges, and they're 3 anti-charges. You have red, blue, green, and you have anti-red, anti-blue, anti-green. Thoughts on Joe Dispenza meditation? He's a hack and a fraud, and don't pay attention to him. You have flirt today? No, of course not. Never. Why can't the 3-body problem have an equation solution? Because it's not integrable. Does relativity of simultaneity bother you in that time isn't absolute for the entire universe? It doesn't bother me at all. It actually doesn't bother me at all. Do you agree the moon is flat? It is made of cheese, but not flat. It's actually a wheel. Why in society do we associate blue with cold when scientifically blue is hotter? Who knows? Can you recite the alphabet backwards? I can hardly do it forwards. If I don't do it, he will never see it, will he? Do what? That was a fun change of answer for how deep he wanted to explain. What? I'm really confused by time dilation, that two people age differently. Well, they're also traveling through space differently. Why would it be surprising that if space and time is like one whole thing, space-time, if they traveled through space differently, maybe it's reasonable that they would travel through time differently. A theory of time presentism compatible with current physics? Not really, no. I don't know of any physicists who are atheorists. I don't believe in photons other than as an abstraction. I think that the HF quanta and the photoelectric effect, for instance, are real, but I think there's a trigger from EM waves. Well, that's cool, but we can detect and emit single photons, so I don't know how you would think that. In fact, we can even see single photons. What's up with this quantum entanglement? Seems spooky or magic-like. It is spooky, but it's not magic. How do you recommend wrapping your head around the concept of infinity? Just do lots of math until it becomes second nature. Do you like Nietzsche? Eh. Can you read the paper about the quantum gravity model with the varying cosmological constant? No. No, you may not. Unless you can find it on your own, but don't. Don't look for me. Without anti-color, would a color be colorless? No, color has color. Favorite format of MTG? I play Commander. Every possible universe that can exist exists. Does that mean that there's only one where it doesn't? Well, I don't think that every possible universe can exist. I don't know why we'd believe that. Do you think quantum gravity, once we find the correct theory, will be reducible to a path integral of refinement histories? I want to say no, actually. What branch of physics do you study? Seems like you're concentrated on cosmology. I do relativity. So in principle, I do anything that involves differential geometry is my jam. So that means black hole astrophysics. I'm currently studying, late time asymptotic behavior of Curtis-Sitter black holes. Last year I had a paper on some cosmological model. I also do some like pure mathematics stuff. So if you can do Riemannian or Lorentzian differential geometry to it, and it's physics, I'm interested. I'm autistic and really like black holes. Which is cooler, black holes or the creation of the universe? They're both cool. I don't know if one is cooler than the other. I don't buy that we see and emit single photons, even in a trigger theory at a certain amplitude and pulsed or not, would allow you to get a pretty reliable transfer of one quanta. Look, if you don't believe in photons, that's fine. No, nobody will convince you. But the thing is it's consistent with all data that we have, and we can literally detect them with our eyeballs. So, like, they are certainly discrete packets of waves. I don't know how you, like, if you think that there are smaller packets of electromagnetic waves than that, then I don't know how you reconcile that with quantum field theory. Any thoughts on the new mathematical formula no longer describe nature itself but man's investigation? I don't know what that means. Is it true moving mirrors near each other creates photons? Well, kinda, but not really. Where did the energy go from the photons from the Big Bang? It went away. Did we go to space in the 60s? Yeah, of course. How do we use the DESI results in relation to how the universe came to be? Look, so what the DESI result tells us is that we were wrong about the future evolution of our universe. Well, at least it means that we were possibly wrong about the future evolution of our universe. And so if the universe isn't going to end in a heat death, if it's going to end in something else, well, that might tell us something about what it was before. Like, if the universe recollapses and it ends up back in the same state that it started in, then that gives you a good reason to think that, well, maybe it's a cycle. Can a three-dimensional frequency table... I don't know what that is. Where did the photons go? They're still there, they just lost energy. Do you feel anxious when studying? No. How is Riemann space-time different from Minkowski space? Euclidean, so the equivalent would be Euclidean space. It's a matter of signature. So Euclidean spaces don't have time. Can you explain creating matter from light? Yeah, it's called the Schwinger effect. Essentially, if you take two very, very intense light beams and you cross them, the electric field can get so intense that it basically splits virtual electrons and positrons away from each other. and it makes them real. It's kind of a bad explanation, but that's the kind of explanation you would hear on, from Neil deGrasse Tyson. Why don't planets lose their kinetic energy and fall into the sun? Why would they lose their kinetic energy? I love physics, but I hate math. What do I pursue? Either get better at math or you're going to have a hard time with physics. I was just commenting on how you give fuzzy answers to questions, as it appears you are considering the grade school to PhD different ways to give facts. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, you kind of have to do that, unfortunately. If I shot just one photon at your eye, would you be able to see it or no? I think that humans have a detection rate of slightly better than 50% for single photons. Have you read Gödel, Escher, Bach? I haven't, but I've also heard bad things about it, that it's kind of like overrated. April Fool's is over. Are you actually a flat earther? No, of course not. How many papers did he publish in mathematics? Who, me? Like 6 or 7 or something? Or maybe 8? I don't know. I think I have like a dozen papers, but I have to go and count. Can you explain Desi's most recent release? Go watch my video on it. It has like 600,000 views. It was a good explanation in my view. So yeah, go do that. Are there many high-paying jobs if I were to pursue a physics degree? You're not going to get rich with a physics degree unless you become an engineer. Or like a financial guy, I guess. What interpretation of quantum mechanics do you prefer? I prefer many worlds, but it does have its flaws. Favorite color? Maybe green? Can you please explain the ether and why science moved away from it? So the ether is this idea that it's the medium that light travels through. So sound waves travel through air, ocean waves travel through water. They thought that light waves travel through ether. Unfortunately, this became less and less tenable as people did more and more experiments to try to understand how we're moving relative to the ether. Because if the ether is a medium, then either we're moving through it or we're not. And as we made better and better measurements, just the explanations had to get more and more ad hoc until Einstein comes around in 1905 and says, actually, we don't need ether. Here's a better explanation. It was so much simpler. What's your view on free will? I don't think it's real. Why does the Earth not get heavier as we reproduce? Well, because it's not like the Earth isn't getting more mass. Like that the mass that goes into creating people comes from the Earth. Are you into crypto? No, of course not. How might the concept of space-time emerging from quantum entanglement happen? Look up it from bit. It's really complicated, but it has to do with holography. Help with free body diagrams, please. Look up the Rice University textbook. I think it's like open source Rice University physics textbook. They actually have some pretty good chapters on this. I used to use that when I was teaching. It should be freely available as well. Is there an easy way to explain how we know dark matter exists? Yeah, so essentially, there's like kind of 3 key observations that we've made that kind of require some extra mass. First, the outer edges of galaxies seem to be rotating faster than they should if the only mass is the mass that we can see. Meaning that either we don't understand gravity, or there's more mass which allows things to rotate faster. Second thing, it seems like light is distorted and bent, it's lensed, in places where we don't see any matter, but it's distorted and bent as if it's passing through a lot of mass. Famous example is the bullet cluster. If you look at the bullet cluster, you can see what I mean. And then third, when we peer back into the early universe and look at the cosmic microwave background radiation, the afterglow of the Big Bang, we find that it only, like the actual distribution of energy only actually makes sense if there's a certain amount of total mass in the universe. And if we just look at the mass that we see, there's just not enough to account for the power distribution that we see in or the energy distribution that we see in the cosmic microwave background radiation. So it's basically those three are like the best ones, in my view. What does math research actually look like today? Filling up notebooks like this. I probably wrote like, how many pages did I write today? 20, maybe? 20 pages of calculations, something like that. Most interesting symmetries in the universe, diffeomorphism invariance, in my view. Do particles really decay, or is there a different description of it? Yeah, they absolutely do decay. Were you considered a gifted student in high school? Yeah. But, like, that didn't really mean anything. Can I ask you what your job is? Yeah, I work at a university as a physicist / mathematician. Is there such a thing as a semi-lay explanation of fiber bundles? Sounds incredibly fascinating, but incredibly complex. Thank you for the $5, first of all, Tim for Pele. Sort of. You can think of a fiber... The best example, the best, like, non-trivial example of a fiber bundle is... well, okay, this one's technically trivial, but it's kind of like a way of thinking about it is, imagine at every point in space, you attached a circle. So, like, imagine a two-dimensional sheet of paper that has a loop of string at every point in space. So then there is kind of on top of your paper, on top of your space, there's an extra coordinate that you can go around. And it doesn't have to be something that's spatial. In some sense, it can be purely kind of abstract, in that it doesn't come with like distances and things like that, but it is still a direction that you can use to describe things geometrically. Another good example of something with a non-trivial fiber bundle is the Mobius strip. But that I will leave for another time. You should look up the fiber bundle description of the Mobius strip. Look up, I think that somebody's made a good video on that. Do you think math is created or discovered? I think it's created. At what university and in what country do you work? I'm not going to tell you. That would be doxing myself. Are you an experimental physicist or a theoretical physicist? I'm a mathematical physicist, which means that I'm more mathematical than theoretical physicists. Can you force a particle to decay at a set distance? No. Is there another universe out there? Probably not. Oh. Have you read Hidden in Plain Sight, The Simple Link Between Relativity and Quantum Mechanics? No, but it sounds kind of fake. Do they require you to teach while doing research in the university? Not where I work. But generally, yeah. What is special about neutrino? Okay, lots of things. Neutrinos are so weird. So, neutrinos don't have charge, electric charge. They also don't have color charge, meaning that they don't interact with the electromagnetic force or with the strong nuclear force. They do have weak charge, but it's very, very weak, so they don't interact with that much at all either. They also have basically no mass. They have a little bit of mass, but very, very, very little. And their mass doesn't come from the Higgs mechanism. In fact, we don't know where their mass comes from. So they are very, very strange particles. You said humans don't have free will, but isn't superposition basically saying there is? No, absolutely not. You don't choose which one you end up doing just because of superposition. Cylinder is a trivial example of a fiber bundle. It is a trivial example. That's why I said it is technically trivial. The Mobius strip is not, though. The pencil through a piece of paper is used to describe a wormhole. Is this only for a three-dimensional space? Is there an equivalent example for a two-dimensional space? No, that is an example for two-dimensional space. Your view on string theory mafia? I think calling it a mafia is stupid. What do you think Einstein's German last words were? No idea. Explain diffeomorphisms to somebody who hasn't done multivariable in a while. It's a coordinate change. That's all. Seen a battery with nickel decaying to copper? I have not. Biga, thank you for all of the sunglasses. I appreciate you. How do we even figure out neutrinos exist? In fact, they're predicted by Dirac, I want to say. Because they noticed that the energy density was, or the energy in certain radioactive decays was wrong. It didn't really make sense unless there was a third particle that they weren't seeing. How do we quantify curvature intrinsically without embedding into higher dimensions? In terms of the Riemann curvature tensor, you can think of it as you can think of that curvature as describing how long it takes to go to different places, and how like the distance function changes as a function of position. Roses for Paul Dirac. Absolutely. Is the Matthew Dewberry proof-based like most high-level maths? Yeah. Your take on Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? I haven't seen that in so long. Why is moonlight approximately 6 to 7 degrees colder than the shade under a tree in a full moon? That's because under a tree you're insulated. The heat, being under a tree means that you're insulated from the rest of the sky, and so the Earth is radiating infrared radiation all the time. And because typically, if you're out under a full moon, that radiation just goes up and escapes, and it doesn't heat up the air. It doesn't bounce up and down. But if you're under a tree, that radiation is going to go up, and then it's going to be absorbed by the tree, which will re-radiate it down, and it'll just warm the air below the tree. It's actually because you're under a tree, not because the moon is cold. Is Newtonian physics required for understanding quantum mechanics, or would it be an advantage to skip? No, you should absolutely know Newtonian physics. Do you believe in any kind of higher power? No. Quantum entanglement real? Yes, very. What's your take on Nikola Tesla? Far overrated. Super overrated. Have you worked on algebraic geometry? No. No, I haven't, and I'm afraid of it. Don't make me do it. I'm afraid. It's scary. Is there a reality outside of perception? I mean, I think so. Why isn't the moon made of cheese? Who knows if it is? Have you ever been there? Which Bernoulli was better? They were both good. How does a permanent magnet work? I made a video about this, but essentially, a permanent magnet happens when the atoms crystallize in a magnet such that they all kind of align with each other. And because every atom is just a little baby magnet. At least most atoms are. How close are we to finding out how gravity works? In some sense, we do know how gravity works. We just don't know how it works on a quantum scale. But we also don't know how, the strong nuclear force works on a quantum scale either. So we don't know a lot of things. How much vector space do you use daily? All of Riemannian geometry and differential geometry kind of generally is vector spaces. That's the whole thing. Have you read Non-Euclidean Geometry in the Fourth Dimension by Linda Henderson? I haven't. Have you experienced anything paranormal? No. Do magnets work in deep space? Yes. Wouldn't the universe itself and the laws it operates under technically a higher power? Well, that's not what most people mean. How to learn physics like scientists? Become a scientist and learn it, right? How many years did you go to college for? I did an undergraduate in 4 years. The normal amount of time. Have you ever solved a physics equation? No, never. I've never done that. What's your PhD in? Google Scholar at? My PhD's in physics. That's what it says in my diploma. I don't know what you mean by Google Scholar at. I'm not going to tell you what my name is, though. Is there more or less gravity during a full moon? Well, the Earth's gravity is always the same, but the moon will be pulling up on you, and the sun will be pulling down on you in the other direction during a full moon. So, in principle, the moon and the sun's gravity will partially cancel out during a full moon. De Sitter or anti-de Sitter space, and why? De Sitter space seems to more accurate. Well, maybe not. Who knows? Anti-de Sitter space seems to be easier mathematically, but I actually like de Sitter space more because its conformal infinity is space-like. If Mario 64 was real, how many stars do you think you could get? What? What? Would a particle traveling at sea stretch to an infinite length? No, it would compress. Was it worth it to study physics? Yeah. What did you major in physics? I majored in physics and I majored in mathematics. Had the realization that most physics reaches a point where you explain things with other physics words, which have no intuitive connection to the everyday world. That irritates me. How do you see this? Well, one of the things about being in the field for so long is that you forget how normal people talk, so that absolutely happens. But we do our best. If you're a physicist, how many genders we got? At least 2. Do you think geometric Langlands or analytic Langlands will have more direct impact on physics? I don't know anything about either of the Langlands problems, to be honest. Because that stuff is like magic voodoo. Shouldn't say voodoo. It's like magic other things. Sorry, that's somewhat insensitive. How much did your classes thin out over the course of your degree? They never did, because I was double majoring in 4 years, so I was always loaded. Oh, you mean, sorry, you meant, I misunderstood. Yes, after, in first semester sophomore year when I was taking quantum mechanics for the first time, after the first midterm, when the course average was 37, I want to say, half the people left. What is scalar energy? It's like pseudoscience stuff. You look like you play RuneScape. I used to. That's a good. That's a hell. I've been had. Are you interested in fusion energy research? Like from afar, yeah. I don't want to do it myself though. What's your take or view on CERN? It's neat. I'm 35 years old. Would it even make sense or have use to start studying astrophysics at any point? I mean, you could. Nobody would stop you. How many hours were you studying a day? Not very many. Would you do a PhD in mathematics? No, I don't want to do another PhD. I mean, I thought about it at one point when I was younger, but like, nah, I'm good. I already basically do mathematics for a day job anyway. If everything started from one point, then there was a middle of the universe. Everything didn't start from one point. That's the point. See what I did there? How does energy turn into mass? It doesn't. Oh, well, sort of. Okay, it does turn into mass, but not into matter. Been studying these days, that's why I couldn't make it to your streams. That's okay, Intranil. You're good. Do you like the game Half-Life? I never played it. What's going on with all those dark energy and matter? Are we sure that those are real things? Yeah, we're pretty sure. From one scientist to another, you're swarmy. Swarmy? What does swarmy mean? Condescension is unbearable. Okay. Have the day you deserve, I guess. I don't care. How do you approach on understanding physics? I don't think you're a physicist. I need the answer to 2 plus 2. Well, it's more than 3 and less than 5. Is energy amount in the universe finite? If the universe is finite, then probably. If the universe is infinite, then almost certainly not. Calculate gravity without timing the equation. What do you get? You get the Wheeler-DeWitt equations. Do you think scientific progress would be delayed if we didn't have a moon? Yeah, probably. He's ignoring us. I'm not. What's the difference between a fermion and a boson? Right, so there are 2 different classifications of particles, fermions and bosons. This falls out of special relativity, basically. Bosons are in some sense not matter particles. They can occupy the same place, whereas fermions can't occupy the same place. They kind of like, they take up volume. And so in that sense, that's probably the simplest way that you can think about them. Bosons are still substance. They're things. They can have mass, but they don't take up space like fermions do. Amir, thank you for the sunglasses. Oh, and Truth Over Fallacies, thank you for the subscription. That's huge. Oh no, it was because Amir sent the subscription. Awesome. Can pure logic explain why everything starts from one point? We don't think that it did. Do geodesics exist between time-like separated points on the asymptotic boundary of Lorentzian anti-de Sitter space? Geodesics exist between time-like separated points on the asymptotic boundary of Lorentzian. No, not really, because the asymptotic boundary of Lorentzian anti-de Sitter space doesn't have a prescribed metric. It's a conformal infinity, and so it has an equivalence class of metrics. So what you can do is you can talk about an equivalence class of geodesics, but that will basically be all the family or all the families of curves that could possibly pass between them. What there is there will be a family of like a unique family of conformal GUD6 passing between curves, but that's a little bit more complicated. If you punch someone and one knuckle hits, does it do more damage? I don't know. Where should I start if I'm trying to learn physics from zero? My recommendation would be, well, it depends on what your math skills are, but honestly, you could just pick up like a high school or undergraduate physics textbook and just start from there. How would you describe the difference between covariant and contravariant components? Honestly, they're not that different. Like, well, okay, it depends on whether or not you have a metric in town. If you have a metric in town, they're the same thing. There's an isomorphism. If you don't have a metric in town, then one of them tells you about directions, and the other one kind of eats directions. So I would say that covariant eats directions and contravariant has directions. What do you think about the idea of dark photons? I think they're interesting. I'm not sure how much I buy them, but I think it's a really interesting thought. Indraneil, have a good night, okay? Oh. Ooh. Could the universe itself be a white hole as we're expanding from a point rather than contracting? Well, we're not expanding from a point. That's the thing. Do you have a job? Yeah, I work at a university. Explain PIVNERT, PV equals nRT. Yeah, so this is just saying that as pressure goes up and all else is held equal, temperature will go up. If volume goes up and all else is held equal, then temperature will go up. That's basically it. Judas for sending 10 subscriptions. Thank you, Judas. I appreciate you. Would a black hole singularity stretch space-time infinitely at the center of a black hole? Kinda, sorta, but that's how we know that that's true, basically. But that's not really true, right? Yes, yeah, the concept of photons is light with infinitesimal mass. No, photons have zero mass, not infinitesimal. Lorentzian ADS is not connected, however, in a black hole background it is, so there exists GD6 that connect time like separated points. So the question was on the conformal infinity invit. It wasn't on. It wasn't just like in the bulk. If I read the question correctly, I'm pretty sure it was on the. Yeah, it was on the asymptotic boundary. But I mean, yeah, like you're right. It's like, yeah, okay, it's not connected. The point, presumably they were talking about nearby points, right? What are your thoughts on Gutt's inflationary theory? I like it, but I don't think it's right. Can you please explain particle wave duality? Yeah, everything's a wave. It's just sometimes those waves are kind of particle-like, meaning that those waves are like very like they're not spread out over a large area. They're very, very compact. That's basically the whole thing. Can conscious thought theoretically take the form of a boson? Conscious thought isn't a particle, so no. Did Einstein's wife create the theory of relativity? No, there's no evidence for that. If the universe is expanding, what exactly is it expanding into? It's not expanding into anything. Expansion is a local phenomenon. It's not a like a global. Well, it is a global thing. What metric do you use when you're saying nearby points? I mean topologically, meaning that they're in the same coordinate patch, or that there is a single coordinate patch that can describe both points. Could one argue that special relativity predicts either tachyons or free will exists? Without free will, tachyons present no inherent paradoxes, therefore the absence of tachyons scientific evidence for free will? No, I don't think so. I meant bulk GD6. You can happily construct nice GD6 with metric. So yeah, there aren't unique GD6 on the conformal boundary because there isn't a unique metric, right? It's a conformal class of metrics. It's a conformal manifold. So there are no unique GD6 on the conformal boundary, right? Now, you could say there's canonical GD6 because it is conformally flat, at least in a nice, if you're just talking about anti-de Sitter space, of course. If you're talking about something messier, then it might not be conformally flat. but that's just canonical. It's not actually unique, right? But I do love talking about conformal infinities because Poincare-Einstein's metrics, or Poincare-Einstein manifolds, is actually what I wrote my dissertation on. We've been live for about an hour and a half, which means that I am about done. So if you guys do have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comments under the video, and I'll make sure to answer them there. If you haven't already, make sure to follow me on TikTok or on YouTube, wherever you get your social media in your lives. That's also a cool thing to do. And join the Discord too. If you want to see when I'm live or what videos I'm posting, when I'm posting them, joining the Discord will get you that information as fast as I possibly can. Aside from all of that, though, I think we're gonna end the live here. I might just go hop into somebody else's live and just kind of troll around like I usually do on short nights like this. But talking for an hour and a half is real rough. So, y'all, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for some lively debates.